Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Today we're going to do a little bit more of an active flow practice, just trying to build a little bit of vigor here. So as usual, I have a couple of blocks, a strap, and a blanket here. If those are things that are a part of your kit, maybe you want to grab them, find your mat, and we'll get started. So today we're going to begin on the ground. So I'm going to kind of work to build up from the floor today. So as you feel comfortable, maybe finding that reclined position, taking a couple of moments to settle in. Right now, I like to begin most of my practices in this way, just to take a little bit of a separation from what has happened earlier in the day and give me a time to really center in on the mat. Kind of give me an opportunity to connect with the breathing. You of course can do this in any position, but I like this reclined position because it can be an opportunity to let go of any tension that I may have built earlier and just really bring that focus into the breathing. So I'm drawing the breath in through the nose, pulling deep into the navel. Continuing to flow with the breath. So maybe in these early moments, taking a moment or whatever to notice if there are areas that we're looking to take care of at this moment or for this practice today. Maybe some parts of your back might be a little bit sore. Maybe there's some tightness in your legs or tension in the shoulders. Just taking note. It doesn't mean we have to really do anything with it. We're just observing. And maybe more information will show up as we progress through our practice today. My focus throughout, whatever type of practices that I'm doing is really to gain that insight, notice what's going on with the body and how each different position I put myself in affects that area or that sensation, and it doesn't mean that I have to push through, doesn't mean that, I just have to pay attention. Sometimes, positions are taken a little bit more gingerly. Sometimes we shorten things up a little bit, but that's the idea, right? We're taking that inventory, we're listening to our body, and we're taking that information and applying it to how we can best practice today. So it's a new day. As you're comfortable, maybe drawing the knees into the chest, grasping our legs, maybe rocking a bit from one side to the other. So this can be that first step maybe in releasing the lower back, or maybe we feel kind of some draw through the seat. Just taking time to notice what's here. Sometimes people ask, where should I be feeling this? And anatomically there are targets, but the idea most of the time is where are you feeling it, and what do you do with that sensation? What do you do with that information? So a couple more breaths here. I like to just rock back and forth, side to side, feeling different parts of my back, find the ground. Kind of helps massage things out and loosen things up a little bit. So as you're ready, perhaps releasing the legs, we'll find our way for bridge, right? Rolling the hips up and down as it feels comfortable to you. Now I like to take the hips up on the exhalation, thinking about drawing my navel, or starting by pushing the navel toward the ground and using that to lever my hips off the floor, and then lifting one vertebrae at a time and coming back down. Maybe one more time, just moving in and out of bridge as it's comfortable, rolling the hips up and back down. And maybe lowering the knees left to right. So I really like to start with this core mobility, pressing the belly into the ground, or kind of exhaling, pushing the belly button toward the floor as we lever the legs across. So inhale into this rotated position, feeling that expand across the midsection. Doing this, again, I usually keep my feet pretty wide, right? So it's not a lot of rotation of the pelvis. It's a little bit more in the hips, and there's just a little bit that comes up. If you want more in the midsection, you're bringing the feet closer together. If you really want to challenge, maybe lifting the legs off the ground, keeping the shoulders pressed into the floor. Inhaling here, exhaling, engaging the midsection, pulling the legs across. Now this can be a lot of leverage, so if it's new to you, it may be something that you want to take really slowly, mindfully. A little more leverage, more twisting. But again, ask yourself, how does this really feel? Working to keep the shoulders in contact with the ground. Maybe one more time to each side. Coming back to the middle. Maybe circling the knees a little bit, or kind of thinking about mobilizing the pelvis. Again, it's a core engagement. Think about kind of rolling around the pelvis. Come up one hip, across the belt line, down the other, across the back pockets. Right? So just a couple more, and then perhaps reversing the direction. Again, just making the circles whatever size feels comfortable, right? Because the bigger you make the circle, the more there's leverage, the more we put pressure on the lower back. And that's not to say that that's a bad thing, it's just something that we want to be aware of and work with. Drawing the knees into the chest as you're comfortable. Maybe extending one leg along the ground. Now I'm going to keep that leg, I'm actually going to hover that extended leg as well, as one knee is toward the chest and hovering, so my lower back is pressed into the floor. The ankles may circle here a little bit, changing sides whenever you feel comfortable. Again, keeping an engagement in the center so that we can support. And experiment with the height. You can keep that foot really close to the ground, and that again is a little bit more leverage. If we lift it up, or you can let it down, totally whatever fits for your practice today. So I may do a little bit of reverse bicycle riding here, keeping the center pressed into the ground, one leg extending as I inhale, exhaling, kind of bringing the shoulder or the opposite elbow toward the lifted knee. Inhaling, so I'm just coming across the body, inhaling as the legs change. Exhaling, shoulder, elbow, crisscrossing here. All the while keeping the belly engaged, back pressed into the ground. Maybe one more time on each side. And coming back to the middle when you're comfortable, maybe holding the knees, rocking a bit from side to side. From here, when you're ready, we'll move into one more bridge, releasing the feet to the ground, knees pointing toward the ceiling. So I'm actually going to roll up and hold this position. Thinking about relaxing the shoulders away from the ears, pressing the belly button toward the ceiling. So holding here for another breath or two. And when you're ready, rolling back to the ground. Perhaps rolling to one side. Let's come up onto our hands and knees. So just starting with that neutral position and maybe working through a little bit of cat-cow, just mobilizing the center of the body. Inhaling, exhaling as we arch the back, moving back and forth. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, exhaling. So when you're ready, maybe finding your way back to neutral, maybe a little bit of lateral flow, just getting the sides of the body opened up a bit. Good. I like to add that one in there. That feels good. All right, so I want to extend that cat-cow motion a little bit. We're going to work with a little bit of sunbird here. Exhaling as we pull one knee up underneath. Inhaling as we reach the heel toward the ceiling. So I'm extending the cat-cow motion. Head coming up, shoulders rolling back, hips rolling up, and then just reaching through the one leg. Exhaling, pulling knee toward the forehead. Inhaling as we lift. Exhaling. Inhaling. Maybe one more on this side. And back down, opposite side. Exhaling, knee and forehead together, or as close as we can. Inhaling as we lift the other way. Again, just moving through what is a comfortable range of motion. One more on this side. So back to neutral, maybe just kind of finding a little bit of motion so we can create a neutral here. I'm actually going to scoot a block close. We'll use this in just a moment. But when you're ready, maybe sinking back to child's position and just pausing there for a brief second. Extending the arms forward, drawing the shoulders forward over the hands. So I'm starting with a modified plank, keeping the knees on the ground. Now the block is going to be my friend here for a moment, perhaps. But I'm going to lower down just to a point where my chest touches the block. So it's keeping my elbows at a 90-degree angle, keeping me hovering from the ground. Now I'm not releasing into the block, that's telling me where to stop. I'm going to press back up and move back to child's position. So we'll do a few more, just lowering down to touch the block. Now, I have set my block in one angle that works for me today. Maybe we try a different angle. Right, there are other heights to our blocks. But the idea really is that we're trying to keep our elbows from going too deep. So at this point, this is too low for me for what I'm looking for. I want to try and keep that elbow at a 90-degree angle. So I know that by positioning my block in this angle, this one's 6 inches. Pressing back up and returning. Forward and down. Just a few more. So we're just doing this from the modified plank position, knees on the ground. You know, obviously, if you've had enough, Stop, press back to child's position, hold there. If you're feeling like you need a little bit more challenge, maybe extending the legs and going right, from the full-on plank. Back to child's position for now. We'll add downward dog and things in a little bit, but one more time. Coming forward, lowering down, back up, and back to child's position for now. So I'm going to remove the block. Hopefully I'm remembering about what that depth felt like. But the block can be the friend just to keep us from going too far, ideally, again, protecting our elbows and our shoulders, maybe giving us a little bit more of a challenge. So sometimes people will come down into chaturanga and they'll let their body right down to the ground and take the work out of the position. So let's come through our first low series here, coming forward, lowering, again, down like you were touching the block, but then look forward, pulling through and up, curling the toes under, lifting back to downward dog if that's a part of your day today. Gently reaching one heel and then the other one toward the ground, back and forth here for a few moments. Inhaling as we come forward, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, continuing forward, down, pulling through, lifting back, pulling through the navel, continuing in, out, in, out. And holding downward dog as it's comfortable, lifting the hips, pressing the palms totally into the ground. Really check it out. Make sure that your fingers are pushing into the floor too. A lot of times we just kind of get resting on the heels of the hands. But let's be active all the way through the soles of our feet and the palms of our hands, holding the ground, lifting our navel just a bit more, and perhaps walking the hands and feet closer together. Reversing the swan dive as it's comfortable, bringing the arms up, back to our sides, rolling things out, maybe looking to the right or the left, maybe rolling the shoulders back, or one ear down. Good. I'm taking a moment just to extend the fingers and stretch things out. So finding that standing position, and maybe just for a moment, pausing and taking inventory here of how things feel as we stand. As you're ready, perhaps beginning to move into a little bit of a flow. Remember, this is an active flow routine or class here, so it's the idea of maybe inhale and extend the arms, exhaling as I sit, shifting the weight back, inhaling, coming up, right, so we're back and forth with chair, inhaling, and exhaling, in, and out. Inhaling, perhaps pouring forward, alternating that chair with a forward bend if you'd like. Inhaling as we reverse, exhaling as we sit. So listening to what the body is telling us here. Maybe we prefer to hold one aspect of this flow, just letting the body
open into probably the forward bend, but just listening, taking in the information. Reversing. Maybe one more time through this flow. Forward bend. And sitting. All right, so from there, I'm going to find the long edge. I'm going to do a little bit of preparation here, sinking in, getting some twists. So working to open the hips a little bit, dropping the weight. So we're going to do some work with the long edge of the mat today, but we'll do a little bit of sunflower moonflower here, just sinking, pulling the elbows to the sides, inhaling as we lift, hinging forward. All right, so back and forth, kind of active, driving not just through the legs, but feel the hips working, feel the body expanding and contracting a little bit as we breathe in and out. Maybe one more time through this set. Up, releasing the arms, maybe paralleling the feet. Exhaling as we hinge forward, walking the hands down the legs, maybe finding the ground, relaxing the shoulders, the neck. Comfortable. Maybe working the feet back together, finding our way to the forward edge of the mat. Shaking things off. All right. So I am feeling like the walking warrior set is really going to be a good fit at the moment. Right. So just stepping back, finding warrior one. Right. So kind of beginning to extend a little bit, coming forward. So we're going to do some lunging here in a little while, or a little bit more lunging. So I want to be sure that things are warm and open. We've done a fair amount of forward folding and work to this area already. So I want to really be sure that it's open. Inhaling and exhaling. Now if you'd like to kind of change the angles at the chest, maybe keeping the arms at the level of your shoulders. Inhaling as we step back. Exhaling, coming forward. Maybe one more time on each side. Last one. Shaking things out here for a moment. Maybe turning from the hips, just kind of releasing any tension that we may have built in the body. Inhaling as we reach overhead, extending the arms, lifting the chest a bit. Exhaling as we gently pour forward, maybe taking a bend in the knees, softening the body here. Planting the hands on the ground, stepping back with one foot and the other, finding our plank, lowering down, remembering the block. So we stop partway, pulling through, looking up, and lifting back. Downward dog. Stepping forward, so we get our lunge. Other foot, reversing the swan dive. Exhaling as we sit. Inhaling. Exhaling, let's do it again. So this time I'm going to move the right foot first in each direction. Lifting through, back to downward dog, stepping forward with the right foot. So by forward and back with the same foot first, we get our lunge on each side within the set. And then changing to the opposite foot with the next set. Forward. So this time the left foot goes back. So it feels a little funny because it's like the same side again. But so we get to even things out, pulling through, lifting back, left foot coming forward, foot up, reversing the swan dive, sitting down, lifting, exhaling, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, forward. I realize I did the left side twice in a row here. One more time with the right. Inhaling, exhaling, stepping back, the other foot, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back. Let's hold downward dog for a couple of moments. Reaching the heels toward the floor, pulling the navel up, pressing the palms into the ground. And gently walking our feet and hands together, reversing the swan dive. Sitting down, lifting, and releasing. Let things out, shaking out the arms. Good. All right, so as you're comfortable, stepping back with the right foot, setting up for warrior one. Maybe the hands meet at the chest, maybe the arms find another home at the moment. Focusing on lifting as we breathe in, sinking as we exhale. Maybe even getting the sense that we're stretching our mat a little bit from front to back, putting a little bit of resistance into this. When you're ready, inhaling, lifting everything up, so extending both legs, squaring off to the shorter edge of the mat, lifting the ribs, exhaling, extending out over that front leg, finding our pyramid, maybe finding the ground. Your block might be your friend here today, depending on what's happening, right? But extending the body over that leg. Back foot continues to connect to the ground, so I'm not floating out over the front foot. I'm keeping grounded. Turning that back hip toward the forward foot. up when you're comfortable. Maybe sinking down through warrior one. Perhaps extending the arms overhead, inhaling. Exhaling as we take the hands forward, framing that forward foot. So we get a lower lunge here, stepping back, get that out of the way, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, downward dog, and drawing everything forward. Now, you can take one foot at a time, or if you feel comfortable, drawing through the middle and pulling the feet in, take time reversing the swan dive, sitting down, lifting. And then we'll do that set on the other leg. And stepping back. So just warrior one, pyramid, and warrior one more time. Lift. Exhale as we take things forward. Maybe walking the hands down toward the ground. Breathing in and breathing out. And returning to warrior one. And when you're ready, inhaling, extending the arms overhead. Exhaling as we pour forward, catching the ground, stepping back. Lowering, pulling through, and lifting back. So we find downward dog, pausing here for a couple of moments. And when you're ready, maybe bringing the feet closer to the hands, whether you walk them, you step them, or you float them. Reversing the swan dive, sinking down, upright, releasing the arms, rolling things out. Then we'll step back to find the long edge once again. Starting with our feet parallel, lifting the chest, lifting the ribs, maybe supporting just above the back pockets if you'd like. If you're comfortable doing this and maintaining your support and your length, maybe we release the arms from the back pockets and find a little bit more of a chest expansion here. I'm going to release that before I take it forward. Hands back to the hips. If you would like to take the chest expansion forward, be my guest. Just use what's appropriate for your body today. Finding forward, wide leg forward bend. Maybe putting one hand on the ground, gently twisting, if you'd like to kind of turn through the middle of the body, checking on both sides. And reversing when you're comfortable. Coming upright. So I'm going to turn the left foot so I find my way for warrior two. So I'm still positioned pretty much in line with the long edge of the mat. I'm going to extend the arms out in both directions, really as if they were being drawn out from the middle. Working to keep my chest stacked over my hips, so I'm not leading or trailing with any part, although the shift feels good. The hope is that we're maintaining the alignment, and then that the movement really comes from the lower body. Inhaling as we lift, exhaling, cartwheeling in. Maybe we find triangle, stacking one shoulder directly over the other. Now that top arm can remain there, or if you'd like to drop it behind your back. But remember, it drops behind the back. The top shoulder rolls back to make this happen. We're not falling into the position to reach, right? So we want to keep that alignment, that extension. Supporting through both legs. Now, I like to explore the 3 different drishti points in this to just kind of see what my neck is doing today. But I may look at the floor, kind of next to that forward foot. I may basically point the nose in the same direction that my chest is facing, or turn and look as if looking through the upper hand. Right? So if I have my right arm extended, just turn and look. Ready, pressing into the ground with both legs, lifting everything up. Let's sink back into Warrior Two. So we're going to take a quick run through, we're going to cartwheel down, framing that forward foot, low lunge, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, so we look up, lifting back, downward dog. Now pulling that left foot forward once again, basically we're going to come right back where we were, right back to Warrior Two. Lifting, and then let's parallel the feet for a moment. Pouring forward. Maybe hanging out in that forward bend. Lifting when you're ready. And then we'll turn the right foot this time and set up for Warrior Two on the other side. So in this series, we're going to use both ends of the mat. Right, we'll sink out into Warrior Two. Again, just checking in with the alignment, seeing if our shoulders are leading our hips at all. Inhaling as we lift everything up. Exhaling, cartwheeling in. Let's find our triangle. Again, stacking the shoulders. Maybe dropping that top arm behind our back. Meeting if you'd like. Right? But only if we can keep that top shoulder drawn back. Now your strap can be a friend here. You don't need to do it hand to hand. But you don't need to do it at all. It's just an option that kind of keeps the chest open. We're working to roll that shoulder back. Again, checking in with the 3 drishti points. Connecting both feet to the ground, really staying solid through our foundation. Lifting things up. Sinking into Warrior Two. So Just enjoying warrior two for a couple more moments, connecting the feet to the ground, really being solid through the hips, breathing in, breathing out. So when you're ready, we're going to cartwheel out over this right leg. So we're using the opposite end of the mat here, cartwheeling through, framing that right foot, finding the low lunge for a moment, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, right? So we're looking up. So it's the same flow. Back, finding downward dog, and then lifting the right leg, stepping forward, and cartwheeling right back up to warrior two. Inhaling as we come up to the middle. Right, so I'm actually going to sink down, give a few more moments of the twist into the hips. Lifting. Turn out over the left foot again. Warrior two. Cartwheeling through. Finding low lunge. So I'm going to be a little bit more mindful of, or paying a little bit more attention to the low lunge here. Planting the hands, step back, lowering down, pulling through, up and back to downward dog. Lifting that left leg, stepping forward. So we're kind of finding our way back to the low lunge. Now from here, lifting the chest, lifting the arms, lifting the body, finding crescent moon. So I've done this with my back leg off the ground. If you choose to drop that knee, extend. So the idea is we're really finding a nice long arcing motion through the whole body. And when you're ready, cartwheeling into warrior two. Lifting, maybe bringing the feet together, pouring forward, reversing that position. Exhaling out into warrior two over the right leg. One more breath. And then turning in to the lunge, right? So pivoting that left hip around, lifting the arms if you'd like. You can set that back knee down if you'd like to be a little bit lower with your crescent lunge. Exhaling as we pour forward, framing that forward foot, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, inhaling, lifting the right leg, pulling it forward, finding low lunge here for a moment, lifting into the crescent. One more breath. And cartwheeling out to warrior two. Inhaling as we lift, paralleling the feet. Exhaling as we pour forward, coming upright. Warrior two. Cartwheeling in to the crescent moon. So I've changed my hands, just trying to open the wrists up a little bit more, the palms. Exhaling as we pour forward, finding that low lunge. Stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, lift. Lifting the left leg, pulling forward, finding the low lunge. Now if it's comfortable to you, press into that left, lift the whole body. Right, we're going to fly here for just a moment. So warrior three, flying warrior, whatever feels comfortable at the moment. Then when you're ready, setting back down, preparing, coming into the lunge, lifting the arms, cartwheeling into warrior two. Inhaling as we lift, paralleling the feet. Exhaling as we take it forward and lifting. Cartwheeling into warrior two. Back to the lunge. From there, lifting out to warrior three. Lowering. Back up into 2, lifting, folding forward, lifting. Warrior 2 over the left side, warrior lunge. Exhaling as we pour forward, stepping back. I forgot to do the low series on the other end, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, stepping forward with the left foot one more time, coming up into warrior 3. Now you can remain in warrior 3, or if you'd like to lift the body a little bit higher, maybe we can find Shavasana. Releasing, finding our warrior, or crescent moon, warrior lunge, warrior 2, to the middle, pouring forward, lifting, warrior 2, crescent moon, floating up if you're able, warrior 3, or dancer. And releasing, coming down to low lunge, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, pulling the right foot forward, floating up, finding warrior 3, or Shavasana, lifting, releasing back, crescent lunge, warrior 2, lifting, paralleling the feet, hinging forward, reversing, warrior 2 over the left side, cartwheeling in, finding crescent lunge, floating out over the forward foot, you're finding Shavasana, warrior 3, we're lowering down, finding that low lunge, stepping back, lowering down, pulling through, pressing back to downward dog, holding here. Nicely done. So complicated series, some challenging postures. Sorry, I forgot the low series on the one side. More breath in downward dog. And let's lower things down here, finding child's position. Just resting into the ground. Maybe walking the arms to the right or the left. Good. Maybe coming forward, lowering right down to a prone position. So let's get totally flat here. Maybe resting the head on the arms, just a bit of a passive back bend. Maybe reaching back and catching ankles. Stringing the bow here for a moment. The hand releasing down. So maybe a little bit more active with the back bend, planting the hands on the ground, just so I know where they are. And then lifting the head, neck, and shoulders. Think about pulling the elbows back, whether that brings the hands off the ground or not. We just really draw them back. Relaxing the lower body as much as we're able. Pulling the breath deep into the body. So that may be where we're pressing our navel into the ground. And releasing. Maybe pressing back to child's position. Good. So I'm going to come up to hero for a couple of moments. So this one has been pretty comfortable for me for a while. But I'm working to keep all my toes on the ground and sit gently between the heels. So if you prefer a little bit of support from a block or something, you know, make it accessible. But I'm going to actually shift to one side. Right, so just kind of shifting off the edges of my heels, extending the right side at this point. So I shifted to my right, extending the right side. Left hand may walk to the left. Maybe the right arm extends over top, or we'll continue. And releasing this side, let's shift the other way. Maybe lifting, taking it out across. Maybe returning to the middle for a moment. Returning to child's position, maybe curling the toes underneath, pressing forward for plank, lowering partway down, pulling through, lifting back. So I'm going to come forward and roll into a side plank. So I'm just going to shift onto my left hand, stacking the right arm over top, back. Now you can lower down and pull through if you'd like, back to downward dog, and then we can plank on the other side. However it feels appropriate to you. Just roll through a couple more here. Side plank, back, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back, move forward, side plank, pulling through. One more time on each side. Move forward, finding plank, side plank. Back, lowering down, pulling through, lifting back. Last one, side plank. Forward, down, lifting back to downward dog. I'm going to shift weight into one leg, lifting the other for just a moment, and then gently pulling forward for pigeon. So my right foot comes close to my left wrist, and I'm going to shift my weight back just a bit, and maybe a little bit more toward the right side. I'm keeping the right foot flexed to protect the knee, just really remembering to kind of ground through that forward leg. So pausing here. So I like to do this with the body up, but you may feel comfortable just pouring forward over that front leg. Just really checking in with what it feels like, especially at the knee. You know, there should be really no sensations at the knee. So, all right, so let's release this side by lifting, extending back, shaking it out if you'd like, and finding downward dog again. Lifting the left leg and pulling that one forward toward the right hand, dropping that right knee, sinking back a bit, and relaxing here. So the two sides are not the same for me anyway. My suspicion is that most of you would feel the same way, that one side is a little easier or more comfortable or more mobile than the other. This is just information. Maybe one more breath here. Curling under, lifting back, shaking the leg out, finding downward dog for a moment. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can get through here, but if you're comfortable kind of walking the feet forward and coming into a seated position. Maybe we'll take it forward. So however we choose, right? So we'll find a seated position for staff. So we're not going to do a ton of, we're not going to do any more pass-throughs or anything. We're going to do a couple of seated positions, and then we'll work our way down to the ground for a little rest. But inhaling as we extend the arms, exhaling, taking it forward, finding a comfortable seated forward fold, reaching out over the legs, breathing in and breathing out. Releasing here when you're comfortable. So I'm going to turn to this long edge here. Sit however it's comfortable for you, but wide leg position, maybe sitting tall, maybe pouring forward. Maybe taking a little side angle, reaching out toward one foot. So again, like Warrior Two, I'm working to stack the shoulders one over the other. So we didn't work with the reverse warrior in our standing flow. I maybe truncated that a little bit, but we're keeping ourselves mobile through the sides with some other postures today. And to the other side, whenever it feels comfortable, reaching up. I'm a little bit tighter on this left side today, so I'm taking it a little ginger over here. When you're comfortable, maybe finding the center, keeping engaged through the feet, through the legs. Good. Go back around, drawing the legs together. Maybe floating here, balancing if you'd like. So I like to play with this. You know, maybe we get low, maybe we get high, maybe we roll and we catch. So you can kind of take a moment or two to find a little bit of playful motion if you like. And when you're ready, maybe reclining, bringing the knees in, rocking the legs out, or rocking the body out a little bit. Releasing the feet to the ground. So we're going to find a bridge. Now you can bridge shoulders and heels, or maybe the hands replace the shoulders. Just again, kind of take a moment to really ask yourself what feels right to you today. Lifting the hips if you'd like. In either case, softening the neck and shoulders. And releasing everything back to the ground. And completely releasing to the ground. Find whatever is a comfortable, restful position for you for now. Returning the attention to the breathing. Perhaps scanning through the body with the breath, just kind of noticing the feet, hopefully releasing whatever sensation we're having with the feet, any tension, anything we're kind of holding for, relaxing, opening the ankles and the lower legs, just melting through the knees and the thighs, softening the hips, the lower belly, the lower back, the whole pelvic bowl, melting through the ribs, and the torso, softening the chest, the shoulders,
melting the arms completely off of the body, just letting it go totally. Softening the neck, melting through the chin, through the ears, through the scalp. Totally softening the face. Completely letting our body go into the ground. Just a couple more breaths. Whenever you're comfortable, maybe rolling to one side, supporting our head with one hand and the opposite arm. Take whatever amount of time you need in any of these final positions. And when you're ready, maybe coming up into a seated position. So I'm going to close out our time together today. 3 breaths to close out our practice. First breath, honoring the body for its work. Second breath, honoring the mind for its attention. The third breath honors the breath itself for its presence and its feedback. Taking a moment, saluting one another. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining today. Until next time.